Welcome to the Sonic Iceberg Tier 1, Sonic Adventure 7. Sonic Adventure 7 was a bootleg game for the Game Boy Color. This bootleg appears on sale for eBay occasionally, showing a picture of the manual and cartridge, but the manual is just a copy of the US version of Sonic Blast manual, with different pictures from Sonic Adventure added onto it. The intro is an abridged version of the Sonic and Knuckles title screen animation, and the title screen itself is just the Sonic Adventure logo. The graphics were recolored, and honestly it's kind of just unbearable to look at. The Game Boy Color doesn't hold up the best nowadays, but this one really doesn't. Resource Sonic Adventure 2 leak. The company Resource was known for making Sonic figures back in the day, and they worked alongside Sega to make all these figures. But they announced some figures that they were working on way too early. Before it was shown off as being a part of Sonic Adventure 2, the figures of Shadow and Rouge were revealed, spoiling that they'd be in the game. Sonic Speed Simulator. Sonic Speed Simulator is a game developed and published by GameFam, working with Sega, and serves to be an official entry in the Sonic franchise in Roblox. Yeah, most games that are partnerships with other companies don't end up being, quote, official entries in the franchise, but this one is labeled as so. From what I've seen, this looks like one of the better made games in Roblox. Sonic Genesis. 2006 was the 15th anniversary for Sonic, and alongside Sonic Racers and Sonic 06, we got a Game Boy Advanced port of the first Sonic game, simply called Sonic Genesis, and it was not good. It's not terrible, but it's like playing Doom on a PC that came out in the 70s. Sure, you might be able to get it to barely work, but it's on everything else now, so there's no real point of playing it this way. It just really struggles on the Game Boy Advance. No fault of the console necessarily, I mean it was a good console, but Sonic's just a bit too much for it. It's no use. When in a fight against Silver in Sonic 06, if you get locked in a corner, it becomes an unbearable experience, because Silver will keep repeating, "It's no use, take this," over and over again. It's become a bit of a meme in the Sonic community, and honestly, it's just obnoxious. The entire fight, you're just hearing the same voice lines over and over again. Sonic for Hire. Sonic for Hire is a Flash animated crossover series starring a washed up Sonic the Hedgehog looking for work. Obviously, off the plot alone, no, it's not official, but the dialogue is also a bit more adult than you'd expect.
You like those burgers, Eggman? I hope you choke on them, you fat piece of...
Ballina Productions. Ballina Productions is a YouTube channel that's been doing Sonic animations for over a decade, well, 15 years now. They used to do animations in Source, being the classic Gmod-like animations, and now it's really high quality and oddly detailed. There was almost a year where they didn't upload anything because of some of YouTube's weird policies being dumb, but they returned 4 months ago to do a remake of their first massive video called Sonic and Jaws. Corone crossovers. Corone is a HoloLive VTuber that's known for doing many different sponsored streams and just a lot of stuff with Sonic, even doing a dub in the Japanese version of the second movie. Well, there's been a few crossovers between this VTuber and Sonic, mainly in Sonic Frontiers, where depending on what pre-order for a DLC of the game you did, it would affect which of these you'd get. You could get a Corone-inspired shoes and gloves for Sonic, you could have Corone's fan icons replace the Cocos in the game, and even have sound effects from Corone's stream replace the different sounds in the game, like picking up rings would just have a entirely different sound effect. Juice WRLD Unused Song. Keep It Up is a unreleased and unfinished song by Juice WRLD that was meant to be in the first Sonic movie. Unfortunately though, Juice WRLD passed away and never got to finish a song. There's still parts of it online, what he was able to record so far, but we don't know how much of the song is actually out there. This could either be most of it or just a small part of it. Sonic Adventure 1 port issues. The port of Sonic Adventure 1 from Dreamcast to GameCube and later PC was pretty bad. Aside from the graphics being worse, a lot of the game runs faster, which you'd think would be okay, but some animations don't exactly work right, and some enemies are just completely broken because of it, disappearing and reappearing way too fast to not even let you have a time to hit them. And yeah, some of the textures are just flat out bad on the PC version. The port is just rough, and if you're gonna play it, you know, maybe sail the seven seas doing it on Dreamcast or GameCube. Just don't play the PC version. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. Different from normal Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega Sonic the Hedgehog is a 1993 arcade game developed by Sega AM3. It was an isometric game that was played on a trackball, and the three playable characters were Sonic, obviously, and the newcomers Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel, who have been kidnapped by Dr. Eggman. It was one of the several arcade games to be released under the Sega Sonic brand, and these characters, Mighty and Ray, would return as playable characters in the Sonic Mania game, which on release people were kind of annoyed that it was another 2D game, but out of all the 2D games, it's one of the better ones in the franchise. Desert Dazzle. This is Desert Dazzle, a level that was meant to be added into the 2011 remake of Sonic CD, but it got cut. From what we know about it, it was going to be a Western-themed level inspired by the level Sand Shower Zone in Sonic 2, which is what I'm using as gameplay for this. The closest thing we got to this was a level in Sonic Mania, with the level Mirage Saloon Zone being heavily inspired, but the whole level unfortunately got scrapped. Chris Chan, Ashura Glitch. Ashura is the fan name for a glitch version of Sonic in the second game. The glitch would occur by activating debug mode and placing waterfalls in a certain area, and for some reason this would bug out Sonic's texture and make him lime green and black. This got turned into sort of a fan character named Ashura, and this glitch version of Sonic hasn't returned in anything else. Tails loves mints. In the Japanese Sonic 2 manual, it said that mints are used to refill Tails' flight meter, and this sort of became a meme for Sonic fans. Obviously, mints don't refill Tails' flight meter because, well, they're not in Sonic. Sonic X Leapster. There was a Sonic game on the Leapster, and like everything on the Leapster, it was educational. It wasn't too educational, like one of the questions is just find the number 27, and then you run to 27. Out of all the Leapster games I've seen, which is oddly quite a lot while making these videos, this one is for sure one of the better ones. Sonic Blast. Sonic Blast is known for being one of the worst Sonic games. It was made for the Game Gear, and players could control Sonic or Knuckles as they embarked on an adventure to find the scattered Chaos Emerald fragments and destroy Dr. Eggman's Silver Castle. People didn't like it for multiple reasons, mainly because the graphics were really bad and the slow gameplay and level design. The whole thing just ended up being a complete mess. Chaos 3 and 5. This is Chaos. He is a Chow mutated into a immortal aquatic hydrosity worshipped like a godlike figure by the Knuckles clan. While this Chaos consumes Chaos Emeralds, and his appearance and powers will change. We know the forms 0, 1, 2, 4, 6, and Perfect Chaos, but we have no clue what forms 3 and 5 look like. They've just never been shown. Hard Times. Hard Times is a song by the band The Jetsons, which was rewritten for the third Sonic game as music for the Ice Cap Zone. The song was originally composed in 1981 but was unreleased until 2008 with the release of the Complete Jetsons collection. In 2020, the song was officially released on vinyl, limited to about 250 copies, and the album artwork is the background of the Ice Cap Zone, and the entire track list uses the Sonic font, and the vinyl itself is called the Sonic Blue Virgin vinyl. It's very expensive if you can find this anywhere. Sonic 06 box art in Family Guy. In Family Guy, when Peter and Lois are at a game store, you can see the covers for GTA, Modern Warfare 3, Portal 2, and then to the left of Peter's head is the cover for Sonic 06. If only it was any other Sonic game there. Sonic's Edusoft. Sonic's Edusoft is a unreleased educational game made for the Sega Master System in 1991. Like I said though, it was never released. Some pieces of it, like early builds, circulated for a while, but aside from a small bit of gameplay, that's all we really know about the game, is that it was worked on and cancelled. Sega Sonic Bros. Speaking of unreleased games, Sega Sonic Bros, or directly translated to Sonic Brothers, is another unreleased Sonic game. It's a puzzle game featuring 3 different colored Sonics that was slated for a 1992 release, with only a few location tests having been made, but it never came out. It was cancelled, but there's still some footage of the tests they had. That's what you're seeing in the background now. This seems like they might have tried fleshing out Sonic's family with this game. I mean, it being called Sonic Brothers and the different Sonics hints to that this would have been its family. But it seems anything to do with Sonic's family just gets shut down. Mannequin Sonia. But we'll get to that later. Shadow watches Kill la Kill. The official Sonic Twitter account posted this in response to user Dinosaur during the whole Twitter takeover by Sonic. And I'll just let you listen to it.
Oh, is Shadow a What's the term again? We...
First, anime is a highly respected form of art. It was not a mistake. Second, I like the one with the edgy girl and the scissor blade.
This is sort of technically canon, by the way. I mean, the official Sonic account, yeah, he's just completely talking about Kill la Kill. And throughout this Iceberg, we'll find out what pretty much all the Sonic characters watch as anime. It's really weird. SHH protein. The hedgehog protein has 3 different names. There's Desert Hedgehog, Indian Hedgehog, which were named after different species of hedgehogs, while Sonic Hedgehog was obviously named after Sonic. Yeah, Sonic Hedgehog is the official name of a protein. The gene was named by Robert Riddle, a postdoctoral at Tabin Lab, after his wife Betsy Wilder came home with a magazine containing an advertisement for the first ever Sonic game. So if you ever hear SHH protein, it stands for Sonic Hedgehog protein. Shadow the Hedgehog teen version. The Shadow the Hedgehog game was originally going to be rated T for teen. In the first version of the game, they showed the scene where Maria was shot, aliens bled red blood, and there was a lot more swearing. Sega cut down on the curses, recolored the blood, and censored Maria getting shot, but originally this game was going to be a lot more violent. Tier 2, the Laura Sue Chronicles. Ken Penders did 12 years of Sonic comics known as the Archie Sonic comics, and through some legal matters that I just can't comprehend, after he left doing all the comics, he obtained all of the rights for any characters and concepts he created in the series. And you may think, oh well, he makes them, that makes sense. But the comics were very significant for the story of Sonic. Imagine, say, Bob Kane, the guy who came up with the idea for Robin, for Batman, just left and after 30 years took all the rights for Robin with him. That would stink. So when Ken Penders left with the rights for hundreds of different characters and concepts, including Sonic's parents, they're just gone forever. But we're here to talk about the Laura Sue Chronicles. Well, after Penders left Archie Comics, he went on to create his own series known as the Laura Sue Chronicles, being a sequel to the series called Mobius 25 Years Later he did back at Archie. In 2004, yeah, the Laura Sue Chronicles came out 2 years ago, so quite a long time, but it stars Laura Sue, the daughter of Knuckles and Julie Sue, and the art is something for sure. Aside from 90% of the Laura Sue Chronicles being reprints of the old series from 2 decades ago, the whole reason it really sucked was that Ken Penders left and copyrighted his stuff to make this, and the art was mild. I mean, some of it is just terrible. Like, I really wish I didn't see some of this art. Because of how big of a stain he left on the community, he deservingly gets made fun of constantly regarding the Laura Sue Chronicles. I mean, he basically just stole a massive part of the franchise. And these chronicles, there's not a whole lot to say about them. They're fine, definitely not worth the taking of hundreds of characters and aspects of the entire franchise that were extremely important. Sonic Adventure websites. Somehow, the websites for both Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 are both up and running. Yeah, the websites from 2000 to 2001 still work, and the site for Adventure 2 actually got an update in 2023, making you download a song file you can play while browsing the site, which is kinda weird. They don't just have it playing in the background, but now I have wildcanyon.mid downloaded and I can play it while looking through the site. Alton Towers Sonic Ride. Alton Towers is a theme park with a Sonic ride, but aside from just having the ride, there's a bit of a weird story with the actual voice of Sonic at the park. There's a room you could go into at the park where from time to time Sonic would greet you with different voice lines, but when you listen to it, it's a bit off.
Keep your eye out for Dr. Eggman now!
Well, it turns out this voice that they were using was going to be the new voice of Sonic, and fans were very worried that the voice was so slow and it sounded so bad compared to the original. They just thought the new voice was going to be terrible. Well, it turns out that this was an issue with the speakers in the room. The advertisements for the park, which we don't have any footage of nowadays, sounded a lot better, and the speakers at the park itself for some reason would pitch down the audio and make it a lot slower. The voice was revealed to be done by Roger Craig Smith, the voice actor of Sonic that we've had for about 15 years now. He's also done other voices like Kyle Crane, Ezio, Batman, Chris Redfield, I mean, this guy just voices everyone, and needless to say, looking back at it nowadays, of course it was going to be fine, but with the speakers being so bad, it really just made the new voice sound terrible. Sonic Synergy. Sonic Synergy was the original name of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, and the original plot of this Sonic Synergy would have been about Sonic's origin story, but was scrapped because the Sonic team wanted to tell the origin first. The thing is though, they haven't. Or at least not what some people wanted. We have a pretty solid idea of the origin story of Sonic, but some fans want something like they did in the Sonic movies, where there's an actual clear backstory. Basically, if we get more story about Sonic's past, it'll be from the Sonic team themselves and not someone they outsource it to, like what would have been Synergy. Sonic Speed Cafe is a pop-up cafe that has different Sonic-themed foods, drinks, merch. I mean, this place is just full of everything Sonic. When it started up, there was even a playable demo of Sonic X Shadow Generations you could play while waiting for an order. If one opens near you, I highly recommend giving it a try. It really looks good. Sonic Awakening. Sonic the Hedgehog Awakening may possibly be the least known about game in the whole Sonic franchise. It was in development sometime between 2006 and 2009 and cancelled at an unknown date. Because the game was cancelled before its announcement and no physical proof of the game exists, the game's existence could be considered unconfirmed. But despite there being no screenshots, videos, prototype builds, or even concept art for this game, there is an official mention of it on Pete Capella's website, the voice actor of Silver from 2006 to 2009. This would imply that the game was far enough into development to begin work on voice acting, but was cancelled sometime during the recording period or shortly afterwards, though no recordings have surfaced online. It's also possible that Sonic Awakening was a codename for another release game, but there's no confirmation of this. Sonic Unleashed Java. Sonic Unleashed Java is a Java port of the Sonic Unleashed game. Obviously it wouldn't be able to run the whole 3D game on the phone, so they made it 2D. And out of all the mobile ports I've seen, this one isn't too bad, especially for the Java phone. There's been quite a few other times in other Icebergs I've done where I've talked about Java phone ports of games, and this one looks really good. And I'll talk about some really weird stuff about it in a future entry. Sonic DS. There's been 9 Sonic games released on the DS, 13 if you include the Classic Collection. They all range in quality quite a lot. From what I could tell, the general consensus is that Sonic Rush is the best of these. It's very classic Sonic, similar 2D platforming, but there's random bits of 3D that look shockingly good. I mean, I got jump scared by seeing Sonic come at the screen. But aside from moments like that, the actual sprites, or I guess model here, is way more animated than most of the 2D games. Also, it being on the 2 screens, when Sonic would fall from the top half to bottom half, you would go from the top screen to bottom screen. It was a super unique concept, and overall, Sonic on the DS was pretty good. Sonic Extreme. Sonic Extreme was going to be the first ever fully 3D Sonic game, and the first original title in the series developed for the Sega Saturn. This was the second Sonic game to be cancelled on the Saturn, with the other being Sonic Saturn, but we'll talk about that one more later. The cancellation of Sonic Extreme is often blamed for the commercial failure of the Saturn, as it left the system with no major Sonic game and no original 3D platformer release for the series, until in 1998 with Sonic Adventure, and that was on the Dreamcast. Seeing what the game could have looked like in development kinda sucks. I mean, it would have been insane for the time, but they completely missed their mark on the Saturn and just had to wait for the Dreamcast to go fully 3D. Sonic 16. Sonic 16 was put together shortly after the completion of Sonic Spinball. The demo was dated November 1993, However, due to the slow pace of the demo, Yuji Naka gave the demo for the game a thumbs down, leaving Sonic 16 to never fully be developed. This game would have been unique in that the style reflected the Sonic TV show at the time instead of the actual art style of the games. There's still a demo for it, that's the footage I've been using, but aside from that, there's nothing out there on this game. Sonic 2 Lost Levels. Sonic 2 had lots of levels that were cut, some of these being the Dust Hill Zone, Rock Zone, Wood Zone, Winter Zone, Hidden Palace, and Cyber City Zone, also known as Genocide City. I mean, there was tons of levels that got completely cut. Some of the levels were repurposed into future games, like the Hidden Palace Zone for Sonic 2 was restored in the Sonic and Knuckles version of Sonic 2 and in Sonic Mania. So at least not all of these levels were cut. Hidden Palace Zone and some others got re-implemented and repurposed later on, but there's still a good number that were just completely scrapped and we'll most likely never see. Sonic Animation Cells. You can buy a lot of animation cells from eBay and other distributors for from older Sonic shows. If you don't know, before digital animation, older animated shows would have a cell, a drawing of a character for every single frame, and have a few for the background that they could move through. And after a show was done, these would either be put into storage or circulate online for people to buy. And there's just tons of these online. And they're not super expensive either. The average price seems to be around $30 with shipping included, and my girlfriend was able to get one from Sonic Underground. Christmas Island. Sonic's official birthplace isn't Green Hill Zone. In a November 1991 issue of Sega Players Enjoy Club, which was a magazine from Sega Japan, it's described by Sonic that he was born on Christmas Island, and that it's a strange world, different from our own, and that he lives there with all of his friends. Aside from in that magazine and some internal story documents, Christmas Island wasn't mentioned again until 2011, when co-creator of Sonic, Yuji Naka, was doing an interview with Russian magazine Gameland, and this was said. Sonic initially had critters and robots, but Sonic Adventure introduced humans suddenly. Why have you decided to add them? Then Yuji Naka responded, action in Sonic's universe unfolded on Christmas Island from the very beginning, and accidentally things have happened to make it where only animals and robots are there. And later, when Sonic makes it to the usual megapolis in Adventure, that's where he met humans. On Earth, it actually exists. Americans use it as a nuclear weapon testing site. Actually, this is why we populated it with robots and strange animals. So not only do the Sonic games take place on Earth, the actual birthplace of Sonic is a real island. This is Christmas Island in the Pacific Ocean, a real island sharing the same name, and as Naka described, was used by the US and Britain as a nuclear test site. But this island has never been shown off in the games. Sonic 2 Time Travel. Sonic 2 was robbed. At least in my opinion. Initially, Sonic 2's story was going to revolve around time travel. There was going to be multiple maps for every time period you can move between throughout the story, and like most time travel stories, it got complicated. Depending on how you beat the levels and what routes you took, this would completely change what you saw throughout the game. Getting to play through different paths of levels like how the Shadow game did it. This eventually would be repurposed for Sonic CD, but not nearly as fleshed out as the concept art was suggesting. Snoot Boy. It was known for having an abnormally large nose and got turned into a meme called Snoot Boy. This is one of the most 2017 or 18 feeling memes I've seen in quite a while. From what I could find, this meme started becoming a thing around 2019 or 2020, but this bootleg figure got to be really expensive because of this meme, being around $200 when searching for it online. Heavy and Bomb. Heavy and Bomb may be some of the most niche characters in Sonic. Their mechanics of Robotnik turned good, or supposedly at least. In the manual from Team Chaotix, the 1995 game they were introduced in, it suggests that they may be double agents, working to slow down Knuckles' team. After all, even though they seem to be allies, they do kind of serve as punishments. Heavy will slow you down and pull you back sometimes, and Bomb will explode, which sure, it can damage enemies, but it's an explosion. It can also damage you. These characters are just super niche, and we unfortunately don't know much about them. They appear in the comics, but even in those, they're hardly in it at all, and they haven't returned ever since. Hitting Sonic 3D Blast. In Sonic 3D Blast, you can trigger a secret level select by wiggling or hitting the cartridge. Sort of. One of the developers of Sonic 3D sort of cheated their way through the verification process done by Sega to make sure the game doesn't crash. Sega had a process where they would leave the game on for hours and try different things to test if a game would crash or not, and if it did, weeks later they'd mail the game back to you to fix the error. To bypass this, one of the developers made it to where if there was an error in the code or a really bad glitch, that it would send you to a secret level select screen. So yeah, this wasn't intended to be for any secret levels or anything. In fact, just by hitting the cartridge, all you're doing is severing the connection slightly, causing the game to glitch out and send you to the screen. Simon Y. The Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Simon Y prototype is a prototype build of Sonic 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. It's a relatively early build of the game, thought to be created around the middle of 1992, and this particular prototype was named after Simon Y, the one who found the ROM on a Chinese GeoCities page and brought it to the attention of the Western Sonic community. It was one of the first prototype builds to be found of Sonic 2, and for many years was simply referred to as the Sonic 2 Beta, but was named Simon Y Prototype later on. Only 4 zones can be played during this prototype, being the Aquatic Ruins Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, Hilltop Zone, and Emerald Hill Zone, in that order. A further 9 can be accessed through a level select code, though none of these zones can be finished. And 3 are entirely empty stages. This prototype was clearly very, very early on in development. SonicJamGame.com. Sonic Jam is sort of a pseudo-compilation of the 3 popular Mega Drive Sonic games. The compilation of Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles was released on the short-lived TigerGame.com exclusively in North America. Though the game shares the same name as the Sega Saturn Sonic Jam, it's entirely different. Sonic Jam for Game.com doesn't contain entire games, just levels which are loosely based on the Mega Drive classics. There's 3 selectable characters, being Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, all of whom retain their original moves from Sonic 3 with the exception of Knuckles, who can't glide or use his climbing ability. No power-ups introduced in 3 are available either. However, the method of entering the special stages are similar to 3's. Basically, it was a weird compilation on this site, and it really didn't run too well back then. It was just a massive mess. Sister Sonic. Popful Mail was a PC RPG game released by Nihon Falcom in 1991. Nihon Falcom had paired with Sega in '92 to form Sega Falcom. Many of their previously released games would be reimagined for the Sega CD. One of these remakes was going to be a Sister Sonic remake of Popful Mail. Replacing the existing cast of characters in the game was Sonic characters. This includes the main character, Sister Sonic, being a female relative of Sonic who was going to be a bounty hunter. Due to a large number of angry letters sent to Sega Falcom, it was decided to cancel this Sonic-themed reimagining and instead settle on a more faithful remake of Popful Mail to the Sega CD. This would have been the first RPG in the Sonic series if it weren't cancelled. Instead, the first one was 16 years later with Chronicles Dark Brotherhood, but this also would have been the first family member in Sonic, being his sister. Sonic 4 Episode 3. Sonic 4 is 2 games. There's Episode 1 and Episode 2, and it was gonna be a trilogy, so what happened to Episode 3? Well, sales declined for Sonic 4, and it was just doing awful, not making Sega really any money. So instead of doing an Episode 3 and completing the story, it ended up getting cancelled, which is really annoying because we have some of the scrapped cutscene from Episode 2 showing what was going to be in 3, and it showed the silhouette of Knuckles in front of the Chaos Emerald and the Death Egg Mark II above Earth. It would have for sure been a very high-stakes story if it weren't cancelled. Odd characters in Sega All-Stars Racing. Everyone talks about crossovers from games like Mario's and Rabbids, Darth Vader and Soul Calibur, Negan and Tekken, but why was me, Xbox Live Avatar, Banjo and Kazooie, and the guys from Virtua Fighter in this game? It was a really weird crossover, and not to mention Heavy from TF2 being in All-Stars Racing Transformed, plus their newest one, Cross Worlds, is gonna have Minecraft, SpongeBob, Hatsune Miku. The whole Sonic Racing franchise is just really weird with crossovers. Tails is a My Hero Academia fan. Well, we can thank the user Thomas Coppola for asking this question on Twitter, and I'll just let it play for you. This is sort of canon, I guess, just like the other Shadow one.
Ella asks, to everyone except Shadow because he already answered, what's your favorite anime?
Oh, mine's a bit dark. You might not like it. It involves the ghouls and the like.
I like the one with the kid who becomes a hero, one for all.
Ugly Sonic Conspiracy. The original Sonic trailer was bad. I mean, it was terrible. Sonic looked so much worse than anyone thought he could look, and with it being so bad, it got turned into the meme, and the trailer spread like wildfire. They obviously redid the look, and he looks way better now, but some people seem to believe the original trailer looking so bad was on purpose, just to get the attention of people. No. The amount of money it cost to do that would be insane, and there's so much stuff behind the scenes of them preparing different models for the movie. It just wasn't a stunt. They legitimately thought this Sonic was good for the movie at one point, and I'm very glad they changed it. I'll fix your art. This is more of a generalized Twitter thing than just Sonic fans, but it can get pretty rough with Sonic fans on Twitter. Some people feel the need to, quote, fix other people's art, changing aspects like a character's race, weight, just changing it and rudely saying I fixed it after reposting altered art. It's just really messed up, and sometimes with the Sonic community it can get really, really bad. Sonic Wonders of the World. Sonic Wonders of the World is an unfinished film adaptation of Sonic. The film began development in 1994, and a treatment for it was written, but it was cancelled the following year before production could start. This was the second attempt to adapt the franchise into a film, since they already tried Sonic the movie from the same team earlier, but third time's a charm. Now we have a really good, successful movie franchise of Sonic. Sonic High School. Sonic High School is a fanfiction written by Dark Doom Firemaster on fanfiction.net. It follows the lives of numerous Sonic characters throughout high school and contains graphic, romantic scenes, contrary to the claims of the author. And there's a whole 20-minute animation of this. I'll put it in the description if you ever want to torture yourself by watching it. But it's 20 minutes of your life you'll never get back. It's a 25-chapter script of Sonic High School, and it's one of the worst things I've ever read. It is genuinely awful. Hatsune Miku crossovers. The biggest Hatsune Miku crossover was having a Sonic costume for her in Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix Plus, which is unironically a very good game. But a massive crossover was announced recently with the upcoming Sonic Racing Cross World starring Hatsune Miku as a playable character, including tons others like a DLC-sized amount of content for Minecraft. But the whole game looks to be insane with crossovers, and having Hatsune Miku there is really just out of nowhere. Werehog Prototype Plush. Keltoy is a company that makes many different plush characters that for sure range in quality, but in 2009 they got the rights to do Sonic Arcade plushies, and these rights were up until 2013, but they ended up doing one official line of figures with 8 characters being released. But one of the prototypes of these plushies that was never released was the Werehog plush, and the one you're seeing now is owned by the YouTuber PatMac, and may be the only one in existence. When browsing a Chinese selling website where he noticed tons of prototype plushies up for sale, one caught his eye. A Keltoy Werehog Sonic from Sonic Unleashed. No one was even aware of the plushie's existence until this photo was uploaded to the internet, so he quickly bought it and is still in possession of the one we know of to this day. This plush may be a one-of-a-kind since they never made official Sonic Unleashed plushes, and no other listings for this prototype have ever been posted. The Sonic Bible. The Sonic Bible was an internal document created by Sega of America in 1991 during the production of the original Sonic game. The Bible was an attempt to establish the definitive Sonic backstories in non-Japanese regions. It was never published publicly and was continually revised during development, and so many versions of this exist. But there are several common elements that appear to be in every version. In particular, according to the Bible, Dr. Robotnik was once a kind scientist named Dr. Ovi Kintober, before turning evil by a lab accident. Later drafts of the Bible also provide the first reference to Mobius as Sonic's home planet, but wait, isn't Christmas Island where Sonic was born? On Earth? I mean, that's what the co-creator of Sonic said. Well, honestly, I don't know. The exact origin of Sonic seems to change pretty much all the time, and there's not really a solid answer. It's pretty much an entirely different canon for every aspect of this franchise. Secretary Menu. In Sonic Adventure 2, if you press Start in the title screen and select a file to use, then go to Options on the Start menu and rotate your control stick around in circles, you'll eventually hear a chime sound. Then, if you go to the themed selection, you should see the icon of the secretary. Choose this and you'll get a secret secretary theme. Her picture will be in the background and she says different things when you go through different modes of the game. This type of Easter egg really seems like one of those playground rumors that would lead to nothing, and I'm really shocked this is in the game. It's just so weird and convoluted to get to. Sonic Live in Sydney. Sonic in Sydney was a 25-minute long musical show performed at the now defunct SeaWorld Sydney. This show was set up on a stage that was located adjacent to the park's food court, so people watching the show could do it while eating. But in late 1997, Sega disbanded the show because they felt it wasn't dynamic enough and replaced it with a Sonic-themed puppet show. And the images that are on screen are all we have from the previously mentioned show. There's very limited information on it, but all the music that was at Sega World Sydney is still available online. Just any actual footage or really any images of it are completely lost. The Man 3. This is The Man 3. A movie poster that's only seen in the final confrontation between Tails and Robotnik in the Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure 1. It was later replaced with a Chow in Space poster to fit the Sonic theme better, but some fans seem to think that the Man 3 is supposed to be a reference to Men in Black. Personally, I just don't see it. Satam Lost Intro. Satam, or Sonic the Hedgehog, the 1993 animated TV series, has a lost intro. It's been recreated with old concept art and frames left over from it, which is what I'm playing, but the original intro is just completely missing. There's practically no trace of it aside from the concept art. Sonic Wreck-It Ralph 2 deleted scenes. In Wreck-It Ralph 2, there's some deleted scenes that show that Sonic may have been a much bigger character. It seems like he was gonna be alongside the main cast and, well, pretty much a main character, and was almost fully cut from the movie. We still have a very early version of the scenes he would have been in, not fully animated, but he for sure would have been one of the main characters. Stolen fan art in Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Wii version. In Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, some DeviantArt fan art was used in the American version of the game's roulette course, and the original artist of the fan art found out, and it was this big issue, but it was eventually settled outside of court. Now if you go to look at the original fan art, it's this big page talking about how all settled, but it's crazy that they just used fan art in this, and it's really obvious when you compare the two. It is just the fan art. OKKO crossover. In the show OKKO Let's Be Heroes, there was a Sonic crossover episode. It was about 3 minutes long. Not much to say about this one, pretty generic story, but Sonic and Tails just showed up out of nowhere in this Cartoon Network show. Sonic Mars. Sonic Mars is an unreleased spin-off game that was originally designed for the Sega 32X. This title got cancelled for some unknown reasons, most likely because the 32X was failing, but the project was then moved on to the Sega Saturn, where it would gradually be reworked into Sonic Extreme, which as mentioned earlier was also cancelled. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos Emerald Special. The Chaos Emerald Special of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog may have been the first quote Sonic movie. Not really, but sort of. It's the length of a shorter animated movie, being 55 minutes long, and the story is kind of structured like a movie's. It's 4 episodes stitched together, and some may say this doesn't count as a movie, but tons of other franchises have done this and counted it as movies. Like the Futurama movies are just 4 episodes put together, or even with a future quote Sonic movie, that's just 2 OVAs put together. But yeah, the Chaos Emerald Special is technically the first ever Sonic movie made. Nick Arcade Demo. The Sonic 2 Nick Arcade prototype is a prototype build of Sonic 2. It stands as the earliest known version of the game to be found and released onto the internet, likely created during the first half of 1992. One of the people who worked on the game, Tom Payne, had a schedule that lists May 25th as a date the Metropolis artwork was built, and there's no Metropolis art in this ROM of the game, suggesting that this prototype was before May 25th, 1992. The Nick Arcade prototype is a super early version of the game, and only an untitled Emerald Hill zone can be played normally, with a further 5 zones if you use a level select code, but much of the game still looks and plays like the original Sonic game. The level select screen is identical, and remnants of the original Green Hill zone are still somewhat playable in this. 1993 Macy's Incident. In the 1993 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, there was a massive Sonic balloon, but before setting the balloons out, people were warned that the day was pretty gusty. Everything may not go according to plan. Well, they probably should have listened to those warnings, because the Sonic balloon smashed into a lamppost, getting punctured, and caused the pole to fall down and injure an off-duty police officer and 10-year-old girl. While the officer had a broken shoulder, the little girl had minor injuries. Sonic and Mario Kart Double Dash. Shigeru Miyamoto mentioned the possibility of Sonic appearing in Mario Kart Double Dash during an interview, but this would never come to be. While some work on Sonic being added into the game was done, ultimately it was only Nintendo's characters that made it into the full release of the game, but they included 2 demo discs of Sonic Heroes when you purchased Double Dash. So it was for sure a planned collaboration between the two, having the discs and Miyamoto talk about it, but it just never got around to happening. Mothra and Sonic X. In an episode of Sonic X, the kaijus Moguira and Mothra are just shown in the show, complete appearance being the exact same to their own franchises. I have no clue how they got away with doing this, considering they didn't really get the rights to do this, but yeah, 2 kaijus just appear in Sonic X out of nowhere. Chris Pratt leak. A poster of Chris Pratt playing Tom was leaked onto the internet before the release of the Sonic movie. It was supposedly just an early concept poster, but if the paired cast list is real, which is rightfully debated, but it would have been made in 2017, so this was super early on. But if it's real, the runner-ups for Tom would have been Chris Evans, Paul Rudd, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, this movie could have been so much different. And wait, who's that on the right? Oh no. Oh no.
Down on me, but as it is right now, it's a me.
Tier 3, Amy's Buzzsaw. The prototype for Amy in Sonic Adventure 1 has her wielding a massive buzzsaw. This was changed pre-release though. The only other versions of a buzzsaw in Sonic are in the unreleased Sonic Extreme and in Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal, both as obstacles. But Amy at one point was probably going to use a buzzsaw as a weapon. Sonic the Wrestler. This is Sonic the Wrestler. This man has been unofficially wrestling as Sonic for somewhere between 14 and 24 years. Yeah, information's kinda hard to find on this guy. He wrestles in a mask with Sonic spikes and a blue outfit with a white furry patch on his chest, and even has a pair of red shoes. How long has he been doing this for? Well, most wrestling databases put his start date at around 2006, but one lists him since '99, so it's a bit iffy on when he actually started. But is he still active? It depends on who you ask, because this is what he apparently looks like now. Some databases claim this wrestler is a different one, a few say they're the same guy. If this is the same guy, he wrestles as the Luchador on Mexican TV, still under the name Sonic, and fans love him. They chant his name and cheer for him, which is kinda weird to hear fans cheering for Sonic in a wrestling ring. It's just crazy how little information there is on this guy, but we know he's real. There's just someone out there who wrestles as Sonic unofficially. Sonic's statue was fixed by Sega. This statue of Sonic was originally used at Sega World Kedoma prior to its closure. It's known for standing aside Iga Road and has a seemingly random placement, and the statue for sure saw better days. Until 2020, when Sega randomly decided to repair it. Yeah, out of the blue, the Sega team just showed up and repaired the statue, and it looks amazing now. Now it's just a really nice, polished, colorful landmark on the side of the road in Japan. Charmy's Stinger. Charmy Bee is a male bee, so why does he have a stinger? Female bees are the only ones that can have stingers. Well, there's a pretty simple answer. Just like how most cows and kids shows have udders, despite it only being a female part of cows, it's just what they're known for. Bees are known for having stingers, so Charmy was given a stinger. Sonic Generations PSP. Sonic Generations was at one point gonna have a PSP version, but it was cancelled. Unlike most other cancelled games though, people keep finding assets for this game. In January of 2021, these assets of a debug menu and level textures were found, and more have been found since then. It's definitely not just a, oh, I heard of this game coming out, we have evidence of them working on it. And they got pretty far, but decided to cancel it. Zodic. This is Zodic the Hedgehog, a parody boss version of Sonic in the Dreamcast game Illbleed, which happens to be the only Dreamcast game I've actually played, not counting ports of course. But the game's pretty good, I recommend it, but Zodic is in what's pretty much toy hell, and to defeat him you have to shoot him, which makes him drop rings, and you damage those rings and it damages him. The fight's not too hard at all. Zodic is just really oddly, creepily portrayed. He makes weird demonic hums when confronted by the player, and overall is just super creepy. Winking Stringy Sonic. In 1991, when Sonic as a series started, the first ever Sonic plushies were released, the Stringy Sonic being the most popular of the original set, and these are decently rare. You can find them pretty easily, but there's not a massive abundance of them being sold. They usually cost somewhere from between $60 up to $130. But there's some new information on these stringy Sonics. Some red and black, possibly prototype plushies were found somewhat recently, and we don't know for sure what they were meant to be. I mean, obviously Sonic, but why they were red and black seems to be unclear. I mean, Shadow and Knuckles didn't exist back then, so it's weird finding these prototypes and only one listing of either have been found online. We just don't know what they were meant for. Tropical Sun/Plant Zone. Initially called Tropical Plant and Tropical Summer Zone between the two concept arts for this zone, before being renamed to Tropical Sun in the first design document, this stage would have taken place on an island with waterfalls and palm trees. Based on the map documents, it would have occupied the slot in the level index, which was used for Metropolis Zone Act 3, but this was obviously changed as it appears no actual work on the Tropical Sun Zone was done past concept art. The art would later be used as inspiration for Angel Island and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which, yeah, based off this art, it's pretty much the same exact thing. Very tropical looking. Sunset Town. Sunset Town is a scrapped stage that was meant to be in Sonic the Fighters. Sunset Town was most likely going to be the stage for Honey the Cat, who is also scrapped from the game. But little is known about this stage, as the only trace of its existence lies in a music track that appears in the game's sound test. It's also what I'm playing in the background right now. While Honey was brought back as a playable character in the enhanced HD port of Sonic the Fighters, she isn't normally fought in the game's standard arcade mode, and the stage that would have come along with her is nowhere to be seen. But its music track is freely available in the Sonic Gems collection port and the HD re-release of the game, but we just don't know what this stage would have looked like. All we know is that this sound file that's playing right now would have been in the background for it. Sonic 06 Lost Video in AMV. The original Sonic 06 trailer is lost. Kind of. The trailer that aired to the public is out there, sure, but the one that's playing right now is an upscaled version of someone's recording of a leaked trailer that was shown behind closed doors. It's a long mess, and the original version is just completely lost of the Sonic 06 trailer. It was originally shown behind doors just to build up hype for the game, which, makes sense why we don't have a direct rip of it, but it does suck because the only version we have is an AI upscaled version of someone's phone recording, and phones in 2006, not as good as they are nowadays. Costume wrestling. As a part of the promotion for Shadow's game, Sega decided to put on a wrestling match in a ring with the Shadow the Hedgehog logo painted on the ground. But the match got so violent and out of hand that they had to stop it. Fans were obviously very mad and were yelling, but people were legitimately hurt. And as a surprise, right after a man was rushed away injured, probably sent to a hospital, someone dressed up as Shadow came out into the ring. No, that man getting injured wasn't staged either. The timing was just impeccable. After getting laughed at because, a man just got wheeled away and then Shadow came out onto the ring, Shadow then proceeded to talk about his new game coming out and then joined the commentators in talking about the next match that unfolded. The footage for this is limited and most information is based off reports of the match. There's some recordings, but not too much. But basically, Shadow just went and promoted his game after a guy got beat up half to death, commentated on a match, and then left. The only other time they did this was for a Knuckles wrestling bit somewhat recently. Obviously wasn't nearly as violent as what this one was. Amy and Charmy originated from the manga. Both Amy and Charmy were introduced to the Sonic franchise in the manga. The manga has been on and off over the years, but a new one has started recently called Sonic and the Blade of Courage. Only the first chapter is out of now, but people really seem to be liking it. But yeah, Amy and Charmy were first introduced in the manga. They obviously look quite a bit different than they do now, but it's crazy to think that these characters that you just associate with the games so much didn't even come from the games. DDI Sonic. The company DDI, Data Design Interactive, was a relatively low-budget gaming company founded in the 80s and went out of business in 2012, but a model for Sonic was found created by them. So at one point they were likely working on a Sonic game, but it got scrapped. When this game would have come out is completely unknown, as all we have is the model, but it's crazy seeing the progress they made on it. Fighting Vipers. Fighting Vipers is an arcade fighting game. In this game's character select screen is built on an array of 8 values, one for each character, and by cheating the system, the game can extend the array by 1, letting you play as an otherwise hidden 9th entry called Mauler. But there's another inaccessible 10th entry in the array, where if you cheat the game to unlock it, you can play as Sonic, with Tails as an alternate costume for player 2. This was most likely a cut collaboration between the games, but for whatever reason they just left it in the code. You can still very easily just play as Sonic and Tails in this game. Sally Acorn was a cat. Sally Acorn is a weird character when it comes to being canon or not. Generally, she isn't considered part of the official canon by Sega of Japan. I mean, she's a massive character in Archie comics and the animated series, but these aren't a part of Sega's core game continuity. So she's canon to a show that's long since been over, and the comics that aren't really canon at all anymore because of Ken Penders. It's a mess, but at one point she was gonna be in the game's canon. Sally was redesigned into a character called Tiara Bubowski, which is certainly a name, who was a princess of another world rather than Sonic's. She would have finally wore clothes, because for some reason Sally Acorn didn't, but they would have been a playable character in Sonic Mars, which, that got cancelled. Then Sonic Extreme, that got cancelled as well. But at some point in development, this character was going to be a cat rather than squirrel. And then the team took Tiara Uyonora, gave her a cooler outfit, made her purple rather than brown, gave her fire powers, and who do we have? Blaze. Yeah, Blaze the cat was originally Sally Acorn and is sort of the canon version of her. Very weird process to get here, but that's how Blaze came to be. Off-center logo. I am so sorry I'm telling you this, but it's on the Iceberg and now your brain will be cursed with this knowledge. In the first Sonic game, the logo is off-centered by 8 pixels. It was a developer error and you will never be able to unsee this. Every time I've looked at this logo, I've noticed it and it's mildly infuriating every single time. Sonic Rivals is Silver's canon introduction. Sonic and Silver and canon first met in Sonic Rivals, even though they originally in our time met in Sonic 06. So if you don't know, the plot of Sonic 06 is Dr. Eggman kidnaps Princess Elise to harness her destructive flames of disaster power, and then Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles try to rescue her. Meanwhile, Shadow and Rouge accidentally unleash a character who transports them into a ruined future, and in the future, Silver, along with Blaze, are manipulated into believing that Sonic is the cause of the destruction and travels to the past to kill him. Then eventually, at the end of the story, to save the world, they reset their timeline, meaning the Princess and Sonic never met, and Sonic and Silver never met. But for some reason, Sonic remembers 06 to some extent. He still has some memories here and there, but the canon introduction of Silver is then in Sonic Rivals, because this whole interaction was just scrapped from the timeline of Sonic. Sonic Riders Game Boy Advance. This is Sonic Riders, and if you couldn't tell, it's 3D. So when they were trying to port this game to Game Boy Advance, it was going to be a challenge. It was going to be developed by Backbone Entertainment, who would later on go on to develop the Sonic Rivals series. And it was developed under a tight schedule in order for its release to coincide with both the release of the game's console counterparts and the 15th anniversary of the Sonic franchise. Due to hardware limitations of the Game Boy Advance, emulating the game was intense. Full 3D racing just wasn't going to be possible on this console, so they then changed it into a sprite-based racer. Like Outrun was a big influence for it, where it'd be all 2D but give a good sense of 3D. But it was this 2D art style that would be the game's undoing, as upon viewing the project, Sega of Japan insisted that some 3D elements would be added. Rewriting the game's engine and adding in the necessary 3D features while maintaining the required production schedule was going to be impossible, so the Game Boy Advance port of Sonic Riders went unreleased. The only remaining assets left over from this cancelled port are this title screen and flag animation. Aside from that, there's absolutely nothing. Russian Sonic Game Show. Despite the show looking very weird and small, this Sonic Game Show was officially sponsored by Sega, and the only video I could find was with fan-done subtitles. This is not what they're saying, by the way. But the show was a game show featuring teams of participants consisting of a child and their parent. These participants had to answer questions and take part in Sonic-related challenges. The game show consisted of 2 rounds, while the third was reserved for situations that needed extra time. The first round consisted of questions, while the second has different challenges based on different games for the Mega Drive. The winning teams would receive different Sonic merchandise, like posters, t-shirts, Sonic 2 themed watches, and either the Game Gear or Master System. Overall, it was a pretty basic TV show, ran for about a year, and there's not too many recordings of it. Like I said, the one playing right now is fan subtitled, obviously meant to be a joke. But this was a really cool show, and I'm kinda surprised it only lasted a year. Uyonora Transports. The Norwegian company, Uyonora, was just blatantly stealing Sonic for their branding, and I thought this would have been removed a while ago since they've been a company for quite a long time, but no. Sonic is just still on their logo and they actively use it as their business. Katy Perry's song in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Persian intro. Does the song playing right now sound familiar at all? Yeah, it's just Last Friday Night by Katy Perry used in the Persian intro for Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. So did they have permission? No, not at all. They just used this because they wanted to, and somehow the Persian company that did this didn't get in any trouble. And it's actually a pretty decent intro. I've listened to this in breaks while scripting this video probably 3 or 4 separate times. Eggman watches Tokyo Ghoul. Well, we've already had an entry on Shadow and Tails' favorite animes, so I'll just play this clip here. It has all of the Sonic characters' quote favorite animes from the Twitter takeover by Sonic.
Here we go. At Huiminli040 asks, we've heard some of your favorite animes, But what are the favorite animes of the ones you haven't answered yet? Incidentally, Knuckles, are you able to watch anime on Angel Island? Is there Wi-Fi?
No, there's no Wi-Fi. But I've been watching that show where a guy takes enemies down with one punch. Cream and Vanilla have a big TV, so I go over there.
I keep rewatching this anime where a group of friends turn into zodiac animals. It reminds me of when the Chow transform.
Well, I've been watching this killer show where this little dweeb turns into a bunch of chainsaws and hunts down enemies.
That sounds awesome.
The show's left me so inspired. So be prepared, Sonic. I'll have a chainsaw badnik coming your way.
Sonic sound effects at gas stations. So this sound effect you hear when scanning an item at a register doesn't just sound like the ring from Sonic, it is the ring sound from Sonic. Sega sold their intellectual property to a company named Sammy, and that company, Sammy, is known for making pachinko machines. That company would then license the sound effect onto their pachinko machines, and then when pachinko machines weren't as popular, they decided to license it to different manufacturing companies, like the ones that make registers. So if you hear an item be scanned and it sounds like the Sonic ring sound, that is because it is the ring sound. It is just directly the same exact sound effect. Silver Sonic LCD game. As a part of a promotion with McDonald's, handheld LCD Sonic games were given away in Happy Meals, but as a part of this promotion, there was a very rare chance to get a silver handheld. And I mean very rare, 1 in 2,500 chance rare. And no one had seen one of these until 2020 when YouTuber L Supersonic Q made a video on the seemingly lost silver handheld, and a few days after the video was made, someone contacted him with a picture of the one they had, and then went to call about it, and well, here we are. Now we know this promotion was real. It wasn't really doubted if it was real, but with such a limited release and probably a lot of parents just throwing it in the trash after their kid finished the game, I doubt there's more than maybe 50 of these still out there. Knuckles Nike Swoosh. Originally as a part of a collaboration with Nike, Knuckles is, I guess, stripe? Mark? It was gonna be a Nike swoosh, but fans fell through right before the game came out, so they changed it to a crescent shape. From certain angles, you can see it still looks like the Nike logo, but yeah. Collaboration was cancelled, and I am so glad because it'd be so annoying seeing a Nike logo every time I played as Knuckles. Sonic Adventure on Sega Saturn. The earliest builds of Sonic Adventure were originally programmed with the Saturn in mind, as this was the main console for Sega at the time. However, when it became painfully obvious that the lifespan of the Sega Saturn was going to be dramatically shorter than the Mega Drives, the team reached a crossroads. Either continue working on a title that would become Sonic Adventure as a Saturn title, or scrap it and work from beginning on a new one for the Dreamcast, codenamed Katana. But we do have some concept art of what would have been Sega Saturn's Sonic Adventure. In 2023, Satoshi Akano posting tweets of drawings he did back then for upcoming Sonic games, particularly for Sonic Adventure. The drawings also feature, among others, the mysterious spider character that appears on some posters in the game's Speed Highway stage, as well as a new character called Fly the Bat. Neither of these characters ever came back, they were just entirely scrapped, but it would have been cool to see anything done with them. I mean, they for sure had good designs, just didn't make it onto the Saturn. If you can read this, you're a geek. At the end of Sonic Colors, Tails translates 2 lines of hexadecimal data. I'm not gonna act like I know what that is, but if you translate the third one, it'll say, if you can read this, you're a geek. Just a little Easter egg by the devs. Bubsy Sonic ad. As an ad for the new Bubsy game, this trailer making fun of Sonic was released. And aside from the like to dislike ratio, the reviews of this Bubsy game weren't the best. He kinda got karma for that one. Sonic and Donkey Kong Country 2. In Donkey Kong Country 2, in the room that has Cranky Kong's video game heroes, you can see Sonic's shoes at the bottom here. Not the biggest reference to Sonic, but it's still a reference. All around the room, you can see a whole bunch of other very recognizable characters as well. Broken. Broken is an unused song in Shadow the Hedgehog. It was originally going to be in the semi-hero ending for the game, but was replaced with The Chosen One. It was cut because Sega didn't get in contact with the lead singer in time, but the song's actually pretty good. I obviously can't play it for copyright reasons, but I'll put a link for it in the description. Drama0.gif. In the files of Sonic Adventure 1, there's a file named Drama0.gif, and it's a picture of Yuji Naka, co-creator of Sonic, holding up a picture of him. This image doesn't actually appear in the game, it was just put in the files to be put in the files. Sonic Armageddon. Sonic Armageddon is a cancelled Sonic movie that was originally conceptualized by Ken Penders around 2002 to 2003, based on the Sonic TV show and the Archie comic series. It was the third and final publicly known scrapped idea before the film we got now, and I'm honestly kind of happy this movie didn't come out. Ken Penders really doesn't deserve any more money from the Sonic franchise. The Adventures of Quick and Silva. The game, The Adventures of Quick and Silva, is a game that was made in only 2 weeks, and this was technically the first appearance of Sonic at home. Sonic was featured in the arcade as his first ever appearance being in the game Rad Mobile, where he just kinda hung out in a car. But as for Adventures of Quick and Silva, the devs of the game saw advertisements for Sonic in different magazines, took Sonic, and put them in their own game. That only took about 2 weeks to make, and released it before Sonic 1 came out. I can't imagine how mad Sega must have been, but yeah, technically Sonic first appeared in The Adventures of Quick and Silva for home console release. Sonic Tonic. The Sonic Tonic is a green liquid created from the essence of the Velocitree. When poured onto one's feet, it has the power to give the user supersonic speed that can rival that of Sonic's. Although a side effect of this liquid is that it causes the user's feet to eventually grow extremely large, preventing them from walking. This can be fixed by sweating it out, which is really weird, but it was exclusive to the show Sonic Underground. This show is where the characters Manic and Sonia I mentioned from earlier were introduced. They were the sister and brother of Sonic, and the whole goal of the show was to find their mother that was kidnapped, but it unfortunately got cancelled on a cliffhanger. Brazilian government. In an official Twitter post by the president of Brazil, talking about making a new bridge, he decided to use music from Sonic 06. Yeah, no one was expecting that. Even the official Sonic Twitter account reposted it. Just a crazy place to hear this song. Sega supports Sonic OVA re-uploads. These Sonic OVAs can be uploaded to YouTube, and Sega just doesn't care. Most likely since the OVAs are so old, I mean they're not going to make any money off of them anymore, so people are just able to upload them to YouTube and it not get taken down. It's crazy seeing all the old OVA and movies you can just watch all on YouTube. Tails Sky Patrol was supposed to be a Disney game. Tails Sky Patrol was originally developed by JSH as a game completely unrelated to the Sonic series, most likely a Disney-related game, as the April 1995 edition of Sega Video Game Magazine features gameplay of a prototype version of Tails Sky Patrol, and in the footage of the second stage boss, Tails is shown fighting the Disney villain Pete rather than Behringer. This suggests that the original version of the game was gonna be Disney related, most likely not have any relation to Sonic at all, and it was planned to be a launch title for another company's monochrome handheld game system. The system was intended to be a cheaper alternative to the Game Boy, but with a more educational focus. However, the system got cancelled before the company even put out a press release, and in order to recoup some of the costs of making this game, which was already completed, the devs were asked if they can make it run on Game Gear, which had very similar hardware specifications and screen resolution, so they just moved the game over to Game Gear and made it Sonic related. And that's how we got Tails Sky Patrol. Tier 4. Andronic. Andronic is a playable character in Sonic Dash, exclusive to the Google Play version on Android. It's a mix between Sonic and the Android robot, the mascot of Android. This is obviously the only game the character's ever been in, and I doubt they'll go to another game, unless they come out with another big mobile Sonic game. Shadow's IQ. The only characters that have an official IQ are Shadow and Eggman. In Sonic 06, it's confirmed that Shadow's IQ is 200, and so far the only known living character smarter than Shadow is Eggman, with an IQ of 300. Some people debate that Tails may have a similar IQ or higher since he's able to outsmart Eggman so much, but it's not official. We just don't know his IQ yet. Vector's Fire Breath. In Sonic Heroes and Sonic X, Vector, one of Team Chaotix, can breathe fire. In Sonic X, he uses Fire Breath against Final Nova, and he's only able to use the Fire Breath in Heroes when he's got his level 2 breath. Once you upgrade to level 3, it turns into these weird purple balls and you can't go back. Sonic 3D Blast Game.com. Just like Sonic Jam Game.com, Sonic 3D Blast was gonna have a browser port, but it looked rough. This is the pre-release footage, but the performance is the same, just with a final tint of green on it. It just didn't run well because, well, it was running on 1997 computers in a browser. It was just never really gonna work. Ocean Wind Zone. Ocean Wind Zone is a scrapped zone from Sonic 2. During the game's development, Ocean Wind Zone was intended to be the second zone of the game, but was ultimately one of the first zones to be removed due to time constraints. But the concept art wouldn't be scrapped. It would be later used in the making of the Emerald Coast in the first Sonic Adventure game. Quartz Quadrant CX Room. In Sonic CD, near the end of Quartz Quadrant Zone 1, the past version, there is a small inaccessible room with glitch collision and the letters CX in the background made from these shadow tiles. Turns out that this is a signature of Masato Nishimura, graphic designer of Quartz Quadrant, as CXX is a nickname Nishimura is occasionally credited under. Just a nice Easter egg you know only if you know the graphic designer of the level. I mean, you have to cheat to come across it, it's super hard to see. Infinite Ships Sonadao. Unless you've just stepped into the internet, you've heard of shipping. You know, fans wanting two characters to have a relationship with each other. And these usually have ship names, like the one for Sonic and Shadow is Sonadao. Not the best name, but apparently the character Infinite from Sonic Forces likes this ship, and I'll just play the clip. It's from the whole Twitter takeover.
Oh, I just got a message here from Infinite. It's a file called Sonado.
No, don't open that!
Sonic the Shadow World. There was a pitch for a 2005 PSP Sonic game called Sonic the Shadow World that never made it into production, but the premise is interesting. Keep in mind this is just a pitch, so stuff like story would be fixed if there was any errors and, you know, very early on. The pitch for the game goes, Sonic levels are opulent, colorful places, teeming with life and presenting an idyllic world for the player. The Shadow World is opposite to this. The bright blue, cloudless sky of Sonic's world is replaced with a gloomy, foreboding cloudscape. Instead of palm trees and sunflowers, dead trees and poisonous weeds line the levels. Everything in the Shadow World is hostile. Rivers of lava cut through the rocky landscapes, while in the mountains, thick fields of thistles and cacti must be traversed. The Shadow World is rendered in full 3D so as to create an immersive, enveloping world with tasteful use of the latest visual effects. The world will be brought to life like never before. So basically, there was going to be a chance at getting a really dark and grim other dimension in the Sonic universe in fully 3D. Starring Shadow as the main or side character, at least implied by the bottom of the pitch. But we never got it. A lot of these pitches end up getting sent Sega's way and get scrapped, but most of them don't reach the public view. This one's just a one-off and it kinda sucks considering how cool the concept is. Sonic Adventure 2 Screaming. In the files of Sonic Adventure 2 are unused sound files. These are really creepy screams by Sonic and Shadow that were intended to play after Knuckles' speech, though it was only going to be in the Japanese version of the game. Knuckles' Chaotix was originally a mainline Saturn game. While Sonic Team is sometimes credited with creating Knuckles' Chaotix, it was developed under another Sega team. Production began with Sonic Crackers, a 1994 prototype for the Sega Genesis. Sonic and Tails would be replaced by Knuckles and the Chaotix team. Knuckles' Chaotix was planned as a Sonic game for the Sega Saturn, but transitioned to the 32X when it couldn't be completed in time. Overall, the whole situation's kind of just annoying. On one hand, it would be really cool getting another Sega Saturn game, but then we wouldn't have a game with Knuckles and Chaotix, so overall, just a very annoying situation. Sonic EXE in Sonic 3 Beta. Oh my gosh, he said the thing! Yeah, Sonic EXE, a short rundown, is one of the most popular creepypastas out there. It's basically a glitch version of Sonic who's like demonic and will trap you in a nightmare version of the game. It was a creepypasta made in 2011. You can tell. In Sonic 3, there's a glitch that could have sparked the creation of this creepypasta. At the end of the level, if you're just running around as Sonic, there's a chance that the textures of the level will mess up for a few seconds, and Sonic's eye and glove textures go missing, just turning red. And it looks awfully similar to the Sonic EXE creepypasta. Sonic Sports. The March 1995 issue of Game Players magazine described a Sonic sports game being made. The game was going to be similar to Acme All-Stars, but using Sega characters instead. These characters included Sonic, Tails, and Ristar. It was hinted at that the game was going to include basketball, volleyball, and soccer, but this game never made it to full release. Sonic Lost World PC Launch Party. As a part of launching Sonic Lost World to the PC, Sega hosted a launch party, and it was so bad that this would be the first and last launch party for 4 years. On Halloween 2015, this event was held, and as a part of the Sonic section, the basement area of the event, the community manager spread the word that you could get free Sonic drinks by saying the word Tails to the bartender. It wasn't worded exactly like that though. It was worded in a way that sorta implied that you could get any drink for free by saying the code word, and the bartenders were also under that impression, just putting everything on Sega's tab. Well, this bar isn't just for gaming events. Upstairs was a much larger, generalized section, and the password started getting spread through word of mouth. Well, from some attendees at the event who got to talk to the community manager, they explained that this is most likely why another launch party didn't happen for a while. The code word got spread so much, and alcoholic drinks were so pricey, that everyone in the bar was using the Tails password to get free drinks. So at the end of the event, they had spent thousands of dollars on drinks. They just lost so much money from this event. Sonic 3 Special Stage Inspiration. The Sonic 3 Special Stage's overall planetoid layout was inspired by King Kai's planet from the Dragon Ball manga. Yuji Naka implemented the graphical look of the special stage based on the scene with Son Goku chasing Bubbles on King Kai's planet specifically to make it look more interesting. And comparing the two, they look very similar. You can tell it's just a direct influence. Perfect Chaos is a Biolante reference. I'm pretty sure the Sonic team might like the Monsterverse a bit. The appearance of Perfect Chaos is almost the exact same as Biolante from the Godzilla movies. If straight up ripping kaijus and putting them into Sonic X wasn't enough, they also just copied the exact same appearance of Biolante for Perfect Chaos. Sonic Boom 2013 livestream. Sonic Boom 2013 was an event hosted by Sega of America on August 10th in St. Louis. The event was designed for fans of Sonic games to meet other fans, take part in different activities, and pick up new merchandise and watch a big stage presentation featuring new trailers, live performances, and fan contests. One of the heavily advertised highlights of the event was Crush 40's concert performance. If you don't know, Crush 40 is a band who did a ton of vocal tracks for the Sonic games. Pretty much every song they've done is just amazing. And this entire event was live streamed. The full stage presentation was broadcast by Live Alliance on behalf of Sega, but recordings of this live stream have become very scarce, with no official VOD available. Even though there was one for a short time after the stream finished, it's completely gone now. The only videos we have so far only make up about 12 minutes of the 7 hours the stream ran for. Just another case of completely lost media in this franchise. Blaze prototype designs. Blaze, as mentioned earlier, was a redesign from Sally Acorn into another character and then into Blaze. But in this process, other designs were considered for Blaze, some of which look really cool. Some may say edgy. And wait a minute. Yeah, Blaze's concept art was just used for the making of Shadow. Basically, Sally Acorn and the failure of Sonic Extreme is directly responsible for the creation of Blaze the Cat and now Shadow. Just insane. Chaos Smash. The Chaos Smash is a move that was meant to be in Sonic 06. It's Shadow's counterpart to Sonic's homing smash. Through hacking and modding the game, Chaos Smash can be re-implemented, and while the move can be restored, it doesn't fully work. When restored, it allows Shadow to charge a homing attack mid-air by holding A or X and releasing it. It just doesn't work the best, it's kind of glitchy. It just sucks that you have to mod it to get a mediocre version of the previously cut move into the game. Mania 3DS port. Sonic Mania was originally meant to be on the 3DS, but that was cancelled. But modders really wanted it to be on the console, and when they put it on, it worked perfectly. Like, shockingly perfect. It runs so smooth and there's no issues with audio, the graphics are perfect. I mean, it's crazy that this never made it onto the 3DS, considering how fast modders got it onto the console. Tier 5, 34N12E flipped coordinates. In the Mad Space section of Sonic Adventure 2, when translating the stage's background music, you'll get the chords 34N12E. And if you put these coordinates into real life, it's a location in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, northwest of the coast of Libya and east to the coast of Tunisia. There's nothing here but water, but it's interesting that from background music we got coordinates. I just wish they led anywhere. Egg Gauntlet Zone. The Egg Gauntlet Zone was the first attempt at a boss rush mode for the 2013 remaster of Sonic 2. The zone featured an original mechanic scenery with a drab gray color palette, but the Sonic team preferred the original boss arenas, so they just changed it back to the original color palette. Compared to the final boss attack zone, there's also platforming sections with badniks that needed to be overcome before they could face the boss. The stage is largely complete and can be finished normally, although it can't be accessed without modding the game. The stage, alongside its code, was removed from the 2013 release with the 3.0.9 update, but its data is still included in the Sega Forever release, alongside in Sonic Origins, where they have a more refined boss rush mode now. Tails was originally a girl. The original concept for Tails in Sonic 2 was of a girl. You can see it in this old Game Express magazine. The design of what was Tails was originally a girl. The whole franchise would have been so much different if this is how the game ended up being, but this was changed very soon after to the Tails we have now. Unleashed PC port once in development. A PC port of Sonic Unleashed was in development for a while, but got scrapped. Just like Mania on 3DS though, fans took it into their own hands, and in March of this year, Sonic Unleashed Recompiled was released. And wow. This is one of the best ports I've ever seen. It really feels like an official Sega port, it's that good. It runs amazing, looks amazing. I mean, it's genuinely so impressive. Shoot me now. Speaking of Sonic Unleashed, there's a response when talking to a character that's a bit interesting. He'll ask you, what would you say if you had to make rugs for the rest of your life? You can respond with either, where do I sign up? Or shoot me now, which is just completely out of nowhere for a Sonic game. Silver Super Shadow. In the beta of Sonic Adventure 2, Super Shadow was going to be a silver-white color. This was eventually changed to now the white and red we have. It just looks so much better. I'm very glad this got changed from silver. Robotikin. Like I mentioned earlier, Sonic has a protein named after him, called Sonic Hedgehog, or SHH, while the inhibitor of this protein is named Robotikin. Yeah, obviously being named off Robotnik. Just insane that an inhibitor and protein are both named after Sonic. Lemon Sundrop Dandelion. The Lemon Sundrop Dandelion is a sort of drug in the Sonic Archie comics. It's also very addictive. Overdosing was considered fatal after the character Mello was killed by it. Because it was so addictive, the quote secret sauce, as it's referred to at times, was added to food to make customers constantly return to the amusement park that Renfield the rodent runs. I for sure wasn't expecting a near PSA level drug story in a Sonic comic. Tails almost JFK'd Eggman. In the comic story Easy Target, in issue 87 of the original comic series, a unicorn frees Tails from imprisonment and reveals himself to be Forlock, a visitor that can grant Tails one wish. When Tails wishes for Mobius to be free from Robotnik, Forlock takes Tails to a window with a gun primed to shoot the passing dictator Eggman. So, yeah, Tails was put into the shoes of the guy who killed JFK. Tails refused, and Forlock admits that it was an illusion to test the hero, but yeah, Tails was Lee Harvey Oswald for a minute. Tier 6, the final tier, Black Cat Knuckles. When conceptualizing Knuckles' appearance, a black cat version of him was considered. This got to be changed to an echidna very fast, but originally he was gonna be a cat, and he was gonna be the first cat in the franchise. Knuckles was once a dinosaur. When interviewing Yuji Naka, co-creator of Sonic, when asked about Knuckles, he said, "In designing Knuckles, we did some research with American children. We started with 8 candidates, and the most popular among them was the dreadlocked Knuckles. He was very popular with junior high and high school students, but in the early stages we had a harsher, more reptilian or dinosaur-like design. He's much more refined now, but he's still got a dinosaur-like tail. So along with originally at one point almost being the first cat in the franchise, he would have been a dinosaur as well." Wacky Workbench is built in Desert Dazzle. When looking at Little Planet in the Windows 95 Sonic CD version's loading screen, a desert area with a single cactus is visible. There's no other level that features this area with the exception of Wacky Workbench's past, which shows that the factory was built in a desert-like area. So the scrapped Desert Dazzle zone would have most likely been the past of Wacky Workbench, but it ended up getting reworked. Sonic Unleashed Mobile Blood. Sonic as a franchise is known for being very child-friendly. You know, no blood or gore or anything. But in the Java phone version of Sonic Unleashed, on the spikes on the bottom here, you can blatantly see blood and skulls. Blood, from my knowledge, hasn't appeared in any other Sonic game in the franchise. so this really stands out. Nazi Sonic fan art in Sega Magazine. Sega Magazine, specifically Sega Power, used to feature different fan art fans would send in, and one of them, aside from being a bit violent, also has a Nazi armband on Sonic's arm when he's shooting Mario. I guess they just really wanted to feature everyone's art, because aside from the Nazi one, there's a lot more just super violent artwork that got into these magazines. It was insane. Sonic Team Lost 06 data. The final game of Sonic 06 we got was a much earlier build than what was planned to be released. During the development of the game, the head of the Sonic team, Yuji Naka, left to form his own company, causing the team to lose direction and order. At the same time, the Wii was revealed, and Sega, hoping to have a game on the Wii, ordered development kits, only to discover that the Wii was nowhere near as powerful as the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. Because Sega still wanted there to be a Sonic game on the Wii, available for launch, they split the Sonic team in two. One half to finish up Sonic 06, and the other half to start work on what would eventually become Sonic and the Secret Rings. The development of both games became even more troubled as both teams were split again, this time with a third of the Sonic team working on Knight's Journey of Dreams. Upon trying to boot Sonic 06 on the 360 or PS3, the Sonic team just couldn't get it to stop crashing. They were forced to resort to an earlier, more stable build of the game. The manual for this game supports the story further by detailing features and items that were never included in the retail build, such as different power-ups just never being in the game and other features that never made it in. So basically, Sonic 06 could have ran a lot better and been a lot less glitchy if they just didn't split the teams so many times. And that's it for the Sonic Iceberg. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. And also thank you to my YouTube members. It really means a lot to me. And I really hope all of you have a great rest of your day, week, month, and I'll see you in the next one.